Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to evaluate a property that you want to buy and house hack in. My name is Daniel Kohanowitz, or Dan Kohan as I'm known by on YouTube, and today I'm partnering with Rent Redi rental management software for this video, so let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to assume that you want to buy a property and house hack in it. I'm also going to assume that you may not know exactly what you're doing or all the things to think about. That's why you're watching this video. Don't worry, I've actually done this and I'm doing this successfully right now, and I'm going to walk you through exactly all the things, the special things that you need to be aware of when you're trying to buy a property and house hack in it. So real briefly, if you don't know what house hacking is, it's basically the process of buying a single family house, living in it and renting out the rooms, or buying a multi-family property like say a duplex or a fourplex, living in one unit and renting out the rest, or even renting out the rest of the units and having roommates. And so that way you can have a house that you live in that's basically subsidized or that you profit on with other people's rental money. So some of the biggest benefits of house hacking over other types of investing is you get a much higher return on your investment typically. You have a much higher return because you're actually living in the property. Normally you'd have to, you're always going to have a place to live. It's a necessity for anybody living on this planet. So, you might as well find a place, live for free, and have somebody else pay your rent for you. So that's one of the biggest attractions to house hacking, is the ability to actually live very inexpensively or free. Another great benefit is you actually get better financing terms, and it's usually a lot easier to get approved for loans on a property that you're house hacking, because they consider that a primary residence. Even if it's say a small multifamily like a duplex or a fourplex, as long as you're actually occupying the property, it still counts as a primary residence, and so you can qualify for a lot of awesome mortgage or loan programs like FHA, VA, things like that, because you're actually living in the property, and you also get better terms like a lot lower money down, like as little as 3%, or sometimes even 0% down. And you typically get better rates because it's a primary residence, and the loan companies love lending to people with primary residence, and it's considered less risky than typical just pure investment properties. Another big thing for it is that it's actually usually easier to manage a property that you're house hacking because you're actually living there. You can deal with all of the issues. They're very close. They're not very far away. If you're a handyman type, this is great because you're going to be able to fix things for your tenants very easily, and or handle issues very quickly, very fast. And it's basically like managing rental property but with training wheels, because you're just so close to everything. Another cool benefit is that you can actually write off a lot of stuff. So, for example, I actually live in my property and have roommates, so a lot of cool things like the furniture that I buy, or things for the kitchen, things like that could be communally used. I can actually write those off as a business expense because technically, those things are actually being provided for the tenants as well as myself. So you can actually, buy a lot of things that you were normally going to buy to furnish your property and actually write those off because they're now benefiting your rental property business. And the final benefit of house hacking is that it actually frees you up to invest in the like button until it turns blue, guys. Go ahead and hit that like button right below this video if you're getting some value already. All right, on to the next thing. So let's get into actually how to analyze your house hacking deal. If you want a full video on how to analyze a property, I have one right here somewhere around this video. There'll be an annotation to it. I'm just going to get into the specifics of house hacking, as there's lots of videos on how to actually analyze a rental property. I'm going to go into the specifics of analyzing a house hacked rental property. So first things first, what you're going to need to decide is what kind of house hack you want to buy. This comes in line with what kind of property you want to buy. So for example, there's a few ways to do this. So the first and probably the easiest way is to buy a single family house and actually live in one of the rooms and rent out the other rooms and have roommates. So the other thing you can do if you maybe don't want to have roommates is buy a multi-family property like a duplex or a fourplex, something like that. Live in one of the units by yourself, have pretty much your own house, and then rent out the other units in the same building and have them pay the mortgage and all the expenses for you. Or you can do what I did, is super double dip and get a multifamily property, which I bought a duplex, rented out the other side, and actually rented out a bunch of the rooms in my unit to roommates that I'm living with, and living for free and making a ton of profit on top of that. So obviously, guys, there's some personal preference that you have to actually take into account when you're doing a house hack because, contrary to a lot of rental property where you're not necessarily living there, that's one of the biggest considerations, guys, is, you're going to have to live in the property. So you're probably going to want to factor in things like the location a lot more because you're going to need it to be, in proximity to your work. And, typically you want to be in decent neighborhoods because, guys, where you live definitely matters, and you're going to want to live in a place that you're, going to enjoy living in. You're going to feel safe. There's going to be all the stuff you need around, all that kind of good stuff. Another piece of advice for this is finding, like, say if you want to rent out rooms, you probably want to choose areas where there's places like colleges or, other areas like that where you can find high quality, maybe younger people that want to, that are willing to rent out rooms for lower rent amounts because they want to save money, go to college, but are still, pretty high quality, good tenants that are going to take care of your property and, going to be good to you and good to rent from. Okay, so the next consideration you need to think about is how are you going to finance this property? This is actually a good problem to have because as a owner-occupied property, you have a lot more financing options than, say, your typical investment-only property. You have a lot more loan terms. You can do conventional, very little money down, as little as 3%, 5% down loans. You can get FHA loans, 3.5% down, VA loans, a whole bunch of different ways to finance this property because you're actually living in it. You're usually going to get better interest rates than if it was just an investment property and all that cool stuff. So you got a lot more financing opportunities for your house hack investment property. So if you've actually decided that you want roommates, you're going to need a way to manage and live with those roommates. And the best way I found to manage them is actually with Rent Redi's rental management system. Rent Redi is a super easy way to do things like collect rent, screen tenants, handle maintenance issues, all of that almost automatically and without you having to do almost anything. List your property for rent, all that cool stuff, guys. It's super affordable. It's a super great software. I use it myself. I looked through over a dozen options for this and actually decided on Rent Redi and tested it out, and I loved it. So if you want to get Rent Redi and use it to help you manage your rental properties, go ahead and check out the link in the description. Use code DAN, DAN 20 to get 20% off your Rent Redi subscription in the link in the description below. Okay, so the final tip, special consideration that I have for house hacking is actually factoring in the additional income that you're going to receive from your roommates. And also, one thing that you need to think about is the additional income that you now have because you no longer have to pay rent or a mortgage to the old place that you're living. So you definitely need to factor that into the deal. For example, if you say you get, 3 people renting rooms from you at $500 a piece, that's pretty good by itself, $500 a month. But remember, you're actually living in the property and not having to pay rent. So now, say you were paying, $500 or $1,000 rent a month at whatever place you were at before, you can actually factor that in to the cash-on-cash return of this property because you now have money that you would have normally had to spend on rent to spend on other things like investing in more property. So make sure you factor that into your cash flow calculations when analyzing a property. And also, I would analyze it, if you weren't there or if you and your roommates weren't there and if you had a regular tenant because that's typically going to be a lower rent amount, and you need to make sure that the deal still works when you're not there because eventually someday you're going to want to move out or go to a different property, and you want to make sure that the property is still positively cash flowing. Okay, guys, if you liked that video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more real estate investing videos, and go ahead and if you want to get an awesome rental management software, go ahead and click the link in the description. Use code DAN20 to get 20% off your subscription to Rent Redi. And with that, guys, thank you. Have a good day.